Once again, thank you all for joining the call today. My name is Jay Bharti, Solution Engineer at Intuit. Along with me, we have Soundari Krishnan, who is also part of Intuit developer team. So today, we'll be hosting the webinar on Reports API migration. And we do have other members from our team here who will be assisting the session and also answering the questions. So before we kickstart the session, let's go over the housekeeping rules. So please be noted, our session is getting recorded. So in order to keep the audio clearer, so we request everyone to be on mute until the Q&A section. In case if you have any queries, so please feel free to post it in the chat and our team is available to help you with the questions. Okay, so before we start the session on the upcoming reports API changes, let's go over the overview of the reports. Basically, QuickBooks Online reports are built-in customizable financial summaries that will help us to pull data from our QBO company ID, which helps us to analyze the business performances and financial data, and from there we can able to make necessary changes. So on that note, like reports covers most of the core areas like financial statements and expenses, sales, tax and compliance, and much more. And QuickBooks Online currently exposes a REST API endpoint, which is called Reports API, which is a primary API that will return which is mainly helpful for creating the financial reports. So this is the endpoint currently we are using where we have to pass the company ID and the reports which we are trying to hit for the particular API. So along with this endpoint, we have to pass the query parameters and filters in order to create the financial reports. So on UI perspective, QBO currently supports two views. One is classic and another one is a modern view. So let's see what is classic view and how we are migrating to the modern view. Okay, so QBO supports customers for many years in classic reporting system. So in order to support the growing business, currently we are planning to evolve our system by building the modern platform in order to support the better outcome from the businesses. During this migration, like users will not lose any data and the core functionalities of the reports will be remaining same. So in case if we are getting modernized reports and if you are trying to use the modernized reports, all the existing modern reports, all the existing reports will be completely automatically migrated to the modern view. So please be noted, after May month, like customers will not be able to see the classic view. The complete reports will be entirely migrated to the modernized view. So, okay, let's see how it looks in the UI. So this is the classic view from the UI perspective. So in case if we want to switch to the modern view and if you want to try exploring the modern view option, you can click on the switch to modern view and it will be navigating to the modern view UI. And this is the modern view, current view. We are suggesting the customers to migrate to this report API. And in case if we want to switch to the classic view, we having an option called switch to classic view. But then after May, like this switch to classic view will be disabled so that all the reports will be only served via this modern view report. All right, so let's see the upcoming changes to the reports API. So what is exactly getting changed? So in order to support the modern view, our APIs are getting soon updated to the to use the same services, which is powering the exact modern view of the reports. So this changes will apply to all the reports currently, and which is available in our API reference. And in this note, there is no changes to our request URI and body, but we can expect some differences in the API responses. And also the support to both JSON XML will be continuing in the modernized view as well. So this modernized reporting changes is already available for testing purposes. So you can start validating this integrations by passing the a parameter called testing underscore migration. So this is one of the example, like in case if you are using the profit and loss or balance sheet API, make sure while hitting the API request along with this query parameters, please make sure you're passing this testing underscore migration. So this will basically ensures the services are getting served from the modernized, in the sense like all the responses will be served from modernized service. But a quick note here is like when we are using the testing underscore migration parameter, we don't want to pass any Boolean values like true or false. Simply by passing this testing underscore migration will be sufficient. Okay, on SDK perspective, so we are currently making the changes to support this testing migration parameter. By next week, we will be releasing the changes. So we request all the developers to use the latest SDK version for testing. We will be updating all the version details in our upcoming blog update. Okay, let's see small demos on various use cases where the expected changes to be happened in the API responses. So first one is like improved consistency for null values. So in the current API response, when there is no value for the particular row or column, so we used to get a returned value as either it will be 0 or an empty string. So, but then in modernized API, we have standardized this to return only the empty string and for any of the missing values. Let me show an example on this. If you see here in the current API, so in case if there is no value for this particular JSON object, so we will be returning the value either as 0 or for some of the rows, it may end up with returning the empty string. To make it standardized and consistent, like in the modernized API, for all the missing or no values, we'll be displaying an empty string here. So next is the changes to the summarize by year and fiscal year query param. So in the current API responses specific to summarize column by year, so in current API, like we are getting an inconsistent responses when we are using this particular param. So basically in modernized API, for summarize column by year, it should return the values for the calendar years, and for fiscal year, it will be returning the values which is configured from the company settings. I'll show you the demo on this. So here we are using the query parameter as summarize column by as year. So I have set the start date and end date as 2024 to 2026. So in the modernized report, so we will be returning the data's responses as Jan to December 2024. Likewise, for the next year, upcoming year, we will be returning it as Jan to December 2025. And for the year 2026, until April, we have configured. So it will be returning up to April 25th. So a quick note on this. So if you see here, I have passed the testing underscore migration. So I have enabled this query param in this particular URI. So this particular response will be served from the modernized API. So in case if you are not passing any values for now, like it will be redirecting it to the monolith, like in the sense current API. So next we'll look into the fiscal year configuration. I'll quickly move on to the company settings first. So here in the account settings, like we have configured the first month of the fiscal year to be March. So the responses which we are getting from the modernized view is it should start with it will be returning the pair of months from March to Feb 2025, and after that again March 2020. Let me drag it. March 2025 to 2026. In case if you are providing a start date and end date before the March month, that is in this case, like I have configured the company settings as March, But in start date, I have given the value as from Jan. So the first 2 months, that is Jan and February, will be combined as a one response. And from March to next Feb 2025, it will be combined as a second row. So likewise, this also will be ending under April 20th. So this is where you have to configure the fiscal year also here in the UI. So next is change in row order. So in the current API response, for multiple row orders, like the consistency of the response we are receiving is inconsistent. So in case for the first hit, we may be receiving the row order in 1 to 3 range. For the second response hit, we may be end up with a different column, row or column range. So in modernized view, we have created this row order in dynamically generated form. So we request developers to not rely on this index positions because this index positions may differ from V1 to V2. So in case if you have done any logics in the backend, we request not to rely on this index positions due to this dynamic generation. So as an example, like in the current API, if you see here, the row index is 3 for this particular value. The same thing in modernized API, the row index has been changed to 2. So since it is dynamically generated, so for each hits, it may differ with the row orders. So next is update to summarize by summarization by days. So in the current API response, when you are passing the summarization by days query param, so it will return all the 365 columns for a full year. In the sense, like in case if you are giving a start date as Jan 1 and end date as December 31st, all the 365 columns will be displayed entirely in the responses. In turn, in modernized API, in the current, we have limited the column limit to 200. So only the first 200 columns of dates will be displayed and rest of the other dates will be combined under the group called others. Let me quickly show on this. So I have configured summarize column by days here and start date is 2025 Jan to 2026 24. So from Jan 1, it will we will start with the column range. So here until July 19, we have configured, we will be receiving the response. So from Jan 1 to July 19, 200 columns will be displayed. So rest of the days from here until 2026, April 20th, it will be combined into the column title called others. So let me quickly show in the UI also. So we'll be having a column from Jan 1. So until July 19, 2024, we can able to see, and rest of the other days will be combined in others. So next is account number for both parent and child account. In the current API, for while we are getting the responses, like for account full name, so we'll be just passing the parent account number along with this particular account full name. But in the case of modernized API, along with parent account and child account, we are passing the account number for both the parameters, like computers and equipments or the parent account and accumulated depreciation or the child account. So here we'll be passing the account number separately for parent and child account. So this will ensure a clear and a clarity on the responses we are receiving from the APIs. So with this, I'll be transitioning the presentation to Soundri. So she'll be taking the next section. So thank you for joining the call once again. So over to you, Soundri.
Hey, thanks, Jaya. Hello, everyone. This is Soundari Krishnan, one of the solution engineer from the Intuit Developer Group. So I'll be continuing the session from here. Yeah, so I'll be walking you through the rest of the updates regarding the modernization changes. Let's get started. So let's discuss about the changes regarding the QZ parameter. So in our modernized API, we are no longer supporting the QZ parameter. So the reason behind that is because we are shifting to the new architecture. The new architecture will not support the static drill down links. Instead of relying on the static links, in this architecture, the drill down links will be generated dynamically. I can show you the quick video of how the QZ is behaving in both the current API and as well as the modernized API. So this one is for the current API. Whenever we are passing the QZ equal to true, in the response, we can see the static QZ links will be generated across the response. So yeah, here we can see the links will be generated for the different columns. So now we can test for the modernized API by passing the testing migration parameter. We can ensure the response will be always served from the modernized. In this modernized response, we can see the QZ will not be available. In this way, we can confirm that the QZ support will be completely removed in the modernized API. All right. Let's move on to the next change. So the next change is related to the account hierarchy. So, in our current API, we have observed that whenever the parent account has no transactions, the child account associated to that parents will not nested inside that. So, this is one of the behavior we observed as part of this modernization changes. We are ensuring that always the child account nested inside the parent, and I can show you the visual representation of this. So if I see the screenshot, I can say this is the parent account. Test parent is the parent account. There are two child accounts inside that. That is the test child one and test child two. We can see the two child accounts nested inside the parent. So this is one of the good improvement we have achieved as part of this modernization changes. Let's move on to the next one. The next change is around the section rules. In generally, in our API responses, we do have a field called type. So in our current API response, whenever the section value is coming as empty, the associated type of the section row is displaying the value as data, which was unacceptable because we are expecting the type value for the section should be section. So to standardize this behavior in our modernized API, uh, we are always returning the type value for the section row is section, whether regardless of whether the section has a values or not. Here is the example of that. In our current API, we can see whenever the section value is empty, we can see the type value is data. But in the modernized, even though the values are empty, still the type is returning as a section. So yeah, obviously this will improve the consistency and the readability of our responses. Okay, let's move on to the next importable change around the column title and the column data casing. Uh, okay, in our current API responses, in some of the cases, we have observed that the column title and the column value details will be returned in all in caps. But to avoid this kind of issues in our modernized API, we always ensure that the data is returned in a title case. So if you see this in the current API, some of the places we can see the values are returned in caps, but in the modernized, we ensure that it always follows the title case format. And another importable change is around the start period and end period. Uh, for the current response, this inconsistency were observed. So some of the scenarios, the start period and end period fields were missing in the header of the response. Uh, to uh, to standardize this in the modernized API, we are always included these two fields to provide the completeness of data and also It improves the readability and use for the traceability of the responses. Let's move to the next change. It's regarding the header parameters. So in our modern view, we always ensure that whatever the parameters we are passing to the request, the exact parameter should be visible in the header of the response. If you see this in the current API, we can see in the header, there are two class IDs. Basically, whenever we are passing the class parent class ID in the request parameter, so it obviously it brings the corresponding child class ID as well. Sometimes it leads to the confusion. So this has been standardized in the modernized API, and in the modernized, we always ensure that whatever the filters or whatever the inputs we are passing to the request parameter, that values should be visible in the header of the response. Yeah, obviously, this addition improves the clarity and the traceability of the API responses. Okay, let's discuss about the changes regarding the undocumented parameters. So, as part of this modernization changes, we are completely removing the support of this group by parameter. This will be no longer supported in the modernized API. Addition to that, we are also deprecating the other undocumented parameters. Uh, this group by parameter is not documented in our API reference as well. So, now we are completely deprecating it. And next to that, this is the deprecation of the non-documented reports. So whatever the 29 documented reports will be supported going forward, other than this, that if there are any undocumented reports, that will not be supported anymore after this transition time. All right, let's discuss about the timelines. So all these required changes should be completed before the June 30, 2026. So after this date, all the responses will be served only through the modernized service. And after this transition, there is no support of the classic or legacy reporting system. So we recommend to review your integrations and plan your migrations accordingly. Okay, so here we have captured some of the commonly asked questions. Let's go over this. The first question is, can we test the changes in both the sandbox and production? To answer that, yes, we can test these changes in both the sandbox and production. This allows you to validate your changes and ensure everything is working fine before the final migration. And second one is the encountering a business validation error with code 6000 while passing the testing migration. The error code 6000 means the business validation error. This may cause this error. We will experience this error for the different kind of scenarios, and one of the cause is to passing the unsupported parameter. So to avoid this issue, whenever we are passing the request parameter, we always ensure that that particular parameter will be supported for the specific report. In this way, we can avoid this kind of issues. And the third one is, will undocumented reports that are currently working continue to be supported? The answer would be no. So all the undocumented reports that are currently working will not be worked after this transition time. And the last one is, are these changes available in the SDKs? Yes, all these changes are already available in the SDKs. The user can use their SDKs and uh, test and experience their modernized behavior. Okay, so here we have provided some of the useful resources links. With the help of these links, the customers can understand better on the migration process as well as the changes in the modernized APIs.